Let's talk about what story does to your brain, why it's impossible for people to understand each other without it, and also whether you should or should not buy Nike. Howdy, Jeff Bartsch here with Story Greenlight, where we're all about helping creators like you tell the stories you care about the most. That's what we're all about. If you're new to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss a single video. Now here's the thing, if we want to tell stories that make an impact on our audience, we have to know something about how story works with our brain and with the brain of our audience. So, check this out. I recently read a fascinating book by Lisa Feldman Barrett. She has a PhD in neuroscience, and she wrote a book called How Emotions Are Made, The Secret Life of the Brain. Here's the main idea of what she's talking about. Traditional neuroscience and psychology says that emotions are hardwired into our brain, and that we all have them we all have the same core emotions, all of us for all time, all around the world. Then she talks about if you were to go to the island of Tahiti and learn the language of the Tahitians, you would find out they literally do not have a word for sadness. It's not that they just don't have the word itself, they don't have the concept of sadness. They don't have any way to describe what all the rest of us would describe as sadness. And this got Barrett thinking, it's just some of these ways, it's like maybe the things that we all assume are the case just aren't for everyone. So here's why this matters. Feldman believes that emotions are not hardwired, that they're actually built from the ground up. And in order for that to happen in any of us, you have to have two things. You have to have, number one, you have to have a mental model of what something is. That's number one, you have to have a model. And then number two, you have to have instances where you can actually wrap your head around what that model is and how it works. Basically, we have no way of understanding something that we have no reference for. Now, my little son is almost 3 years old, and he is just now starting to figure some of these things out. He freaks out sometimes, but he doesn't know what anger is. He doesn't know what frustration or sadness or discomfort is, or just all that differentiation between that stuff. All that he knows is he's having big feelings and he's just not happy. So one of our jobs, my wife and I as a parent, is to help my son develop a mental model of what these different emotions are and to help him distinguish between all of them. And because if he doesn't have the mental model of anger, what that actually means, and instances of anger where he can actually put those together with his mental model, he'll never actually understand it. Now, thankfully, most of us end up figuring that stuff out. But the thing is, you have to have the model and you have to have the instances. Otherwise, it never clicks for you. Now, here's the thing. This is not just for toddlers, for little kids. This happens to adults, including me, all day, every day. Here's how. Recently, Nike made the decision that the face of their new Just Do It campaign was going to be Colin Kaepernick, who is a professional football player and a hugely controversial figure. And by the way, this is American football for members of the Story Greenlight community, not here in the US. Kaepernick is a hugely controversial figure because of the fact that he decided to kneel on the field when the national anthem was being played as a way of protesting systemic violence and specifically police brutality against black people. Here's how that applies to us and our stories and our message. If you talk to my friends who grew up in the inner city of Chicago, and they will tell you what they saw firsthand their whole life of systems that feel like they're stacked against them simply because of the color of their skin, or they have seen brutality at the hands of the police who are supposed to be protecting them, they have a very different mental model and a whole different set of instances that goes into what they think about Nike's decision about Colin Kaepernick. Now say you're on the opposite side of that equation and you are in the military and you have seen your comrades die because they believed in defending that flag and everything that the flag stands for. And so to see someone like Colin Kaepernick saying that this country is not all that it needs to be, and therefore he won't stand at attention when the flag when the national anthem is played, their mental models and their instances are very, very different as well. It is incredibly difficult for people to change the way they believe or what they think if the only thing that they have is one specific set of mental models and their own instances of what that model means. So, personally, I will say that for most of my life, I would have agreed with people who say that Kaepernick is out of line for disrespecting the flag, for not standing for the national anthem. He's a highly compensated football player. That's, he's there because this country is so great, etc. That's the mental model that I grew up in. Here's what's changed for me. 3 years ago, my wife and I adopted a little son whose birth father is black and whose birth mother is white. And I've been realizing over the last 3 years that my son right now, he is an adorable little boy. But very soon, he will no longer be an adorable little boy, and he will be seen by the world as a black man. And when I listen to the stories, when I listen to the different mental models and the instances of my friends who themselves are male and they have black skin, they tell me flat out, it's like, it is very different. It is going to be a very different life for your son than it was for me, growing up as a white man. And so, the fact of the matter is, I do not have the mental models and instances for what it means to be a black man in today's society because I just don't have it. I didn't live it. But the thing is, I need to learn these ideas because this matters to me now. This really matters to me because of my son and because of the dangers, like the legitimate, serious dangers that face him in his future years that I never had to even think about. And the only reason that I know that these dangers even exist is because I've been listening to the stories of my friends who have lived it themselves. My friends are able to contribute their mental models and their instances in the form of a story that they tell to me. And that's how I can only begin to understand what they have lived through and what they are living through every day. This is why it's so important as creators for us to, number one, know our own mental models and our own instances, and then we have to know our audience. We have to know what their mental models and their mental instances are so that we can craft a story that spreads our message that we want to spread to the world in a way that will actually land, it will actually resonate with our audience. This is why it is so incredibly important for you and I to be telling our stories, because stories are the number one way that the world changes. I'm Jeff Bartsch, this is Story Greenlight. Keep telling your stories because you matter, your message matters, the world needs to hear what you have to say.